Humblemud.
Much like Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, I've got another confession to make. I have a horrible sense of direction. As a kid who endured many long car rides, I was much more likely to watch the raindrops fall on the window, pick my favorite one, and pretend it was racing the others to the bottom. I'd make a little character with my index and middle fingers and pretend he was jumping from telephone pole to telephone pole, or I'd be playing my Game Boy, of course. I was almost always lost in my head and not paying attention to the road that we were on or where we were even going necessarily. Needless to say, this bad sense of direction often hinders me in a lot of video games. I can't express enough how often I get lost in video games or repeatedly run down the same wrong hallway across the course of my adventure. But I played Batman Arkham Asylum for the first time this year, beat the game, and I don't really recall ever getting lost, truthfully. Which is insane for me because, though you may not realize it since this game originally came out before the term was really even a thing, Arkham Asylum is a metroidvania. If you don't believe me, just think about it really quick. There are gated areas you can't access until you get a new weapon or upgrade to your weapon. The asylum itself is a fairly large and interconnected facility that you explore in a non-linear fashion. You will backtrack to previously explored places, and as you progress, you can unlock new movement and combat abilities. Metroidvania. So as I was getting further and further, I started asking myself why it seemed like I was able to just plow through Arkham Asylum's story, when in literally every other Metroidvania I've played in the past, there have been moments where I've gotten lost, not known what to do next, or my biggest pet peeve, wasted a lot of time backtracking to various areas with nothing else left for me to do at the time while I blindly searched for the next part of the story. Now, there are many contributors to Arkham's excellent pacing, such as the central goal of stopping the Joker always being at the forefront and driving you forward, a clear sense of which building holds the next villain you're trying to defeat or the next victim you're trying to save, and gadgets like detective vision, allowing you to follow the trail of the key figures that you're tracking. But the thing I want to talk about today, the thing that personally helped me keep my bearings the most, was these stupid little cackling Joker teeth. Honestly, I found these really annoying during the first few encounters. Until I learned that you can just tap the trigger and auto-aim your batarangs at them, I was not finding it fun to chase after these moving targets with my joysticks. The little noises they make are annoying and kind of grating on the ears, so I want to take them out, but not for the right reasons. And I remember saying to myself after like the third time seeing them, I really hope I'm not going to have to cut these little guys down throughout this whole game. Well, I did have to do that. But again, once I learned that I could just quick throw the rings and take them out that way, they got a lot less annoying. And the more and more I saw them throughout my adventure, I began to realize the genius behind their inclusion in this game. Arkham Asylum is so great not just because of the amazing voice acting, the sound design, visuals that hold up, art direction, respect for the lore, and fun combat, aka the stuff that's going to stand out to you immediately. Arkham Asylum is also great because of the million tiny little things that all come together to aid in making it feel like a fully fleshed out experience, no stones unturned. Of those million tiny things, the Joker teeth stand out to me because not only does finding them suggest to the player that they are heading in the right direction, since I would unscientifically wager that about 95% of the time they are placed in front of or in the next area you need to go to progress the story, but the fact that they are used in this way is also clearly tied into the game's narrative, and is an in-character action for someone like the Joker to do or to have his henchmen do for him. Not only that, but if you're like me and aren't quite the best at the combat in this game, the Joker teeth often top your health off after a difficult fight and give you that last little bit of experience points you may need to level up and buy a new upgrade, especially if you break enough to clear a requirement for some of the Riddler challenges, which net you even more XP. Now, of course, there are times where the Joker teeth aren't placed in areas that directly lead to story progression. Notable exceptions include the tricky hidden sets of Joker teeth stowed away in the Arkham Mansion, for example. But a vast majority of the time, if you destroy a set of teeth, the hallway right past them is the way you need to go next to move forward. And quick editor's note for you, when I went back and replayed the first hour or two of the game in order to capture footage for this video, I started to notice what I initially perceived as a contradiction to my Joker teeth theory, but actually the more I thought about it, the more it worked in my favor. In the opening parts of this game, these little clacking buddies usually lead you to a locked door or an area that isn't necessarily going to help you, so I started to question myself and my whole theory. But the more I thought about it, the more this made sense, because the Joker and Batman essentially start right next to each other in the beginning of the game. So it's very likely that the Joker is either haphazardly dropping them as he runs away, or is throwing them down the wrong hallway intentionally in an effort to throw Batman off and buy himself some time. And of course, there are areas where you can tell he just dropped them off and then simply locked the door behind him, which also makes sense. However, once the Joker is properly in hiding and more in control of his own game, the teeth placements are practically always an invitation to a new story beat or a reward for finishing one. I'm not sure if this was a conscious decision on the developer's part, but considering how much attention to detail this game has, I'm willing to bet that it was. Once I started to pick up on this when I was about a third of the way through the game or so, I actually found myself opting to manually search for the Joker teeth over using the things the game was suggesting I use, like detective vision. There were a couple times where I would be tracing a scent or something, and once I got into the open courtyard areas, I would lose track of it. Then I would look at my map, remembering a character from the previous area told me they saw the person in question heading towards XYZ building. More often than not, there are 2 paths in the courtyard allowing you to get there. I would go to one and it would be closed off for one reason or another, circle back around to the second path, and before I would even get to the gate or the vent or whatever it was, pretty much every time I could recall, there was a set of 2 or 3 Joker teeth taunting me and waiting for me to take them out, and I felt a sense of relief knowing I was back on track again and heading towards the right place. And the coolest thing about this is that, like many of the small things in Arkham Asylum that contribute to the game's immersion, the Joker teeth are something that narratively fits into and makes sense within this game's story. You will learn within the first 30 minutes of the game that the Joker clearly has access to the facility's cameras and is able to watch what you do.
Hey, Nurse! I know you can hear me. I've got a little something for you to listen to.
Now, he won't usually catch you silently taking out one of his men, I mean, you are the Batman after all. But shortly after, he will notice someone hunkered down and alert his other guys to investigate the situation. In small areas impossible to hide away from the cameras in, the Joker pops up on the televisions there and taunts you.
Was it a clue the great detective missed?
He's able to see you anytime you pop into the visitor center. So clearly he's doing his best to track you as you attempt to thwart his plans, and putting you through all of these trials in and of itself is a game to the Joker.
I suppose I'd better warn my boys you're on the way. Maybe I won't.
He is always trying to push his buttons and see how far he can go and still make Batman play the hero role. He's trying to make him crack. And so, it makes sense within the Joker's twisted little game that he'd like to leave an obvious breadcrumb trail for the Batman to follow, because he gets a sick enjoyment out of watching him endure his games. So, while Batman is silently taking out the henchmen one by one in the next room over, and then needs to solve some sort of puzzle to get the door opened, it's not hard to believe that the Joker has another group of men throwing down some Joker teeth or a present box in the next room to taunt him. The Joker teeth aren't a video game thing. They aren't like a floating med kit or ammo box. They are part of the narrative and something you would totally expect someone like the Joker to leave behind. And it makes sense that the Riddler would include finding these Joker teeth as part of his challenges because he too enjoys taunting the Batman on a sadistic level like this. Lastly, the Joker teeth are perfectly on brand for the Clown Prince of Crime. I mean, branding and symbology is a big part of the Batman universe DNA. Batman himself even draws his own logo when using the explosive gel, and what better way to ensure that the sound of your maniacal laughter never leaves the Batman's brain than to taunt him with hundreds of these little guys all over the map over the course of the night when he's trying so desperately to save the city that he loves. I think Arkham Asylum is a legitimate masterpiece of a game that expertly blends fighting, stealth, and exploration in a 3D action-adventure Metroidvania, complete with excellent atmosphere, performances, and source material authenticity. It completely redefined what a licensed superhero video game could be, and you don't even have to be a Batman fan to enjoy it. I mean, just ask Miss Humblemud, who gave it a 10 out of 10 and watched me play the whole thing because she was way more into it than she expected to be. Obviously, if you haven't played it, I'd highly recommend you do, especially since you just now learned a pretty big tip for how to progress in this game, and if you're an Arkham series vet, hopefully this brought back some fond memories for you and just reconfirms how expertly made this game is. 15 years later, and we're still talking about the wonderful game that started it all. I'd love to know what you all think of the game and what your favorite little details about Arkham Asylum are down in the comments below. Maybe we'll revisit this topic in the future. There's a ton to talk about. If you're still here, thanks so much for watching, And as always, stay humble.